Welcome to episode 3 of the CJ Werleman Show. This week we'll be talking Gaza, Yemen and Kashmir. Now let's get into it. If the past 7 days have revealed anything, it's that the United States President, Joe Biden, is a complete and utter moral fraud, and that his promise to advance human rights and democracy is a total sham. Not only has he refused to condemn Israeli war crimes and human rights violations, or even acknowledge, as Israeli human rights organizations have, that the State of Israel is operating an apartheid regime, but has also protected Israel from sanction and even condemnation at the United Nations Security Council. For Biden, it's a case of keeping your friends close and your war criminal friends even closer. And to make matters worse, his administration announced today that it's sending Israel a further $735 million worth of US manufactured bombs as Israeli warplanes pulverize and incinerate Palestinian civilians under the rubble of their own homes, killing 61 children and 34 women, 3 of whom were pregnant and 2 physically disabled. Now, if you believe Israeli and US justifications for the use of military force against a defenseless and encaged population, then you actually might believe that this guy right here is a senior military commander for Hamas. But unfortunately for Israel, he survived, and according to US intelligence reports, is now planning a major counteroffensive with an army, navy and air force the Palestinian people do not possess or can call upon. You see, the Palestinians have only rocks and glorified firecrackers the Israeli government likes to call rockets. But let's be perfectly clear here. Biden isn't sending more missiles and bombs to Israel by accident, nor is it some clerical or administration error, remembering that in 2014, when Biden was vice president, his then administration gave Israel access to its stockpile of weapons in the Middle East, after Israel had run out of bombs while carpet bombing Gaza for 53 consecutive days, killing 2,400 Palestinians, including 500 children. In every way imaginable, the US is complicit in the brutality of Israel's illegal occupation, system of apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and genocide. And it matters not who's sitting in the Oval Office. Different boss, same job, the job being to protect Israel's violations of international law and human rights at all costs, no matter what. Because hell knows no fury like the all-powerful Israel lobby, which has 90% of the United States Congress firmly in its back pocket. But Biden isn't the only monster in this dark sea of, well, terrifying monsters. Because if you listen really carefully, that sound you hear in the distance is that of Arab political leaders lounging by the side of their palatial swimming pools, smoking hookah, and eating and drinking whatever it is the insanely super rich eat and drink as Israeli bombs rain down on Palestinian men, women and children. These so-called Arab leaders are happy for Israel to do whatever it wants to the Palestinians and Al-Aqsa Mosque, just so as long Israeli soldiers and warplanes don't make too much noise doing it. And so they deliberately lend a deaf ear to a Palestinian woman who told a reporter this week, and I quote, "Whenever Israel bombs Gaza, we put the kids to sleep in our bedroom, so that when we die, we all die together." So what has been the response from the governments of the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, etc.? You mean other than a handful of really angry statements? Well, not even that angry, to be honest. Just a please stop whatever you're doing, Israel, because it's making our normalization deals with you look really bad. Love and kisses, MBS and MBZ. What's happening is this. These Arab governments, along with the Arab League and Organization of Islamic Cooperation, are conspicuous by their silence and inaction because they don't want to give up all the new and expensive toys they got in exchange for throwing the Palestinians under a great big blue and white Israeli bus. In return for normalizing Israel's colonial rule and system of apartheid in the Palestinian territories, these Arab rulers received from the United States the world's most sophisticated piece of military hardware, the F-35 fighter jet, along with armed drones, surveillance technologies, and access to Israeli markets. These governments promised that normalizing Israel would bring an end to Palestinian humiliation, degradation, and suffering. But now, that lie has been exposed. Ethnic cleansing in East Jerusalem and the West Bank, violent raids by Israeli security forces against Palestinian worshippers during Ramadan at Al-Aqsa Mosque, lynch mob attacks against Palestinians by deranged Israeli settlers in the occupied territories, and criminal gangs in Israel, and the bombardment of civilian targets in Gaza is not the peace and stability Arab governments promised. Now think about this for a moment. As Israeli warplanes pound the Gaza Strip, the UAE is profiting from the arrival of tens of thousands of Israeli tourists, many of whom are in Dubai taking advantage of the city's booming sex industry, or what is in actuality the world's largest human trafficking ring, where more than 40,000 women have been unwittingly sold or trafficked into prostitution. A journalist for the Israeli newspaper Haaretz said visiting Dubai is like standing on the sidelines to a gang rape. Now this is what a normalisation of ties with Israel means for the UAE government. It means planes, guns, spy tools, and loads of sex-starved Israeli tourists. Palestinians be damned. While the UAE has remained largely silent, outside of calling on Israeli authorities to assume their responsibilities, the way in which Emirati social media influencers, specifically those with direct ties to the UAE government, are using their accounts to defend Israel and level false accusations of terrorism towards the Palestinians reveals everything about Abu Dhabi's true feelings towards Israeli war crimes. It simply just doesn't care and is using every opportunity to make excuses for Israel. Now check this dude out. This is Hassan Sajwani, an Emirati billionaire who has close ties with Crown Prince MBZ and Donald Trump, and he never tweets anything that contradicts official UAE government policy or feelings. He not only blames Palestinian worshippers for Israel's violent raid of Islam's third holiest site, but also blames the 200 Palestinian victims of Israeli air bombardment in Gaza for their own deaths. It's victim blaming of the worst kind and meant to shield UAE government and MBZ from scrutiny. You see, the UAE and its Arab Gulf partners gambled on their citizens no longer caring about their historic ties with the Palestinian people. Well, they gambled wrong. The good news is this. You, me, and the Arab people can pressure the UAE to right its course by voting with our wallets and deeds. So I'm asking you all to do this. Boycott Dubai, boycott Emirates Airlines, boycott Etihad Airlines, and help make these social media hashtags go viral on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, it's important to note here that it's not only the UAE's betrayal of the Palestinians that should concern us, but also of the people of Yemen, where UAE has sponsored an air and ground war against the Iranian-backed Houthi militias. But let me first state this clearly and unequivocally. The Houthi militias are a terrorist organization that has set up a system of governments that mirrors the methodologies used by Daesh, or ISIS, in the areas of Iraq and Syria it once controlled. Exacting exorbitant taxes from local populations, carrying out campaigns of ethnic cleansing and public executions against critics and opponents, while deliberately shelling civilian neighborhoods and kidnapping children and then radicalizing them into child soldiers. The Houthi militias are a mortal enemy to humanity. But it must also be said that when the UAE and Saudi Arabia first entered the conflict in 2015, a majority of the Yemeni population welcomed the intervention, but have since grown strongly opposed to both governments, having witnessed their true motives. A Yemeni journalist explained it to me like this, and I quote, "The UAE is no friend of Yemen. It's interested only in colonization, it controls all the seaports and oil wells, and is stealing from the people of Yemen." The UAE has also seized the strategic and UNESCO-listed Yemeni island of Socotra. So while it claims to be fighting a war on behalf of the Yemeni people, it's stealing territory and natural resources from them. And even more alarming still is the fact that the UAE is building a spy base on the island with its newest and greatest ally in the region, yes, you guessed it, the State of Israel. Yes, the same Israel is murdering Palestinian kids today. It shouldn't then come as a surprise that the UAE and its Arab Gulf partners, including Saudi Arabia, have betrayed Uyghur Muslims in East Turkestan by parroting Chinese Communist Party propaganda about concentration camps being needed to crack down on radical Islam, and even less surprising still is that they are lending support to India's Hindu settler colonial project in Kashmir, where the indigenous population is being ethnically cleansed at this very moment. In fact, the Indian government is moving at breakneck speed in its effort to change the demography in Kashmir, and alarmingly, it's catching the world's leading human rights organizations off guard. A report issued by the UN shows that India has granted domicile certificates to 145,000 Indian Hindus in the period spanning June to September 2020 alone, while at the same time denying the same right to 380,000 indigenous Kashmiri Muslims, which means at this current rate, more than 600,000 Indian Hindus have been granted the right to buy property and attain employment in the Muslim-majority territory, while at the same time, more than 1 million indigenous Kashmiri Muslims have been denied the same right. This is ethnic cleansing by its textbook definition. I mean, you can look it up. Now, if the alarm bells aren't ringing loudly yet, then consider this. The Indian government has set up a task force to scrutinize the political and ideological preferences of government workers in Jammu and Kashmir, and then firing those it determines to be openly hostile to Indian colonial rule and Indian military human rights abuses by falsely accusing them of being a threat to the security of the state, and then replacing them with Indian Hindu migrants. This is happening now, And the international news media must start paying attention because we are. As the President of Pakistan-administered Kashmir, Mr. Masood Khan, told me last year, we are heading towards a human rights apocalypse in Kashmir. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Please like and subscribe to this channel and help spread the word with your family and friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And please also help us grow and expand this program, giving a voice to the voiceless by becoming a member of this show at patreon.com/CJ Werleman. Exclusive membership benefits and content for those who support my work there. But for now, good night, good morning, or good day, wherever you are, and stay blessed.